Hello, everyone, and welcome to Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. The first offering of the platform is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Luis Martinez. He's a veteran. He's a former basketball player. He's an organizational leadership expert, and he's also a founder. He's deeply entrenched in the entrepreneurship community here in San Diego. He actually heads quite a number of things. The Diversity for Startup San Diego. He's the chapter head for Startup Grind. And also he's just started this new initiative called Read the Plug, which is trying to build up an ecosystem of Black and Latino founders, or Pan-African and Latinx founders. Maybe that's more politically correct. I don't know. I'm really curious to find out more about his initiatives, how he broke into tech, the tech ecosystem, coming from his life as a veteran and a basketball player, and also how public speaking kind of factors into all these different aspects of what he's doing. So thanks for being on the channel, Luis.
No problem, man. Anything for you, man. Thank you for being such a big supporter on what I'm trying to do. So I appreciate that very much.
Oh, no problem. You're doing great things, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. So, I mentioned that you were a veteran, you were a basketball player, but now you're in this tech, ecosystem here in San Diego. Where did that transition? How did that transition even happen?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
How did that transition happen from you going from being a basketball player and a veteran to now being entrenched in this San Diego tech community?
Ooh, that's a definitely fully loaded question. So let's start with the veteran aspect first. So I got out. So I came to San Diego in 2008, and so from 2008 to 2012, I was in the United States Navy. So being stationed in very different places. Brunswick, Maine, Chicago, Mississippi. I ended up in San Diego, and so decided I did not want to go back to Brooklyn, where I'm originally from, where I grew up at, and said, I'm going to go back to school. So I did that, finished my bachelor's, finished my master's, and in between that time, I was playing basketball, and so. After I received my graduate degree, I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life because at the time I was unemployed. I was just trying to find my way through this world, basically, and was going to different events, just trying to figure it out, basically. And I kind of stumbled upon the startup space here locally in San Diego, going to Startup Week. I want to say 3-4 years ago. I want to say 4. And it's just been an interesting ride ever since. Is there anything specifically like how it actually started? I can get into
for sure.
Okay. So you're familiar with how Startup Week traditionally how the program goes. So usually at the end of the Startup Week, they have what they call a startup fair. So you have all the startups, they have booths and stuff. And so I actually was there and standing there just kind of grasping everything, what I've learned throughout the week. And the founder of Startup Week kind of rolled up on me. At the time, I didn't know it was him. But he rolled up on me and was just like, hey, how are you enjoying Startup Week? And so I was like, yeah, this is great. Everything is, as expected. And at the time, this is before they decided to have everything in one place. I personally kind of enjoyed going to different places and walking throughout downtown, but that's just the New York in me, I guess, visiting different places and walking, which is really never an issue for me. But I was like, it's great. I got to go to great sessions, meet new people. But then I said, yeah, but there ain't no Black people. What up with that? And I had said it just like that. And like I literally, the way I'm telling you is the way exactly how I told him.
Yeah, I'm sure that was received really well.
Yeah, he kind of looked at me kind of
It's
funny,
like, what you
actually.
trying to say, man?
Yeah, he kind of looked at me like he really just said that to me. Like, wow, okay. Um, and he just didn't really know how to respond. So it
Yeah,
took
I'm
him.
sure he didn't.
Nah, he didn't. He took a
uh,
long pause. I'm not gonna lie to you.
you
He took a
know,
long pause.
everyone's welcome here. You know, we're all we welcome everybody, but you know, they don't come. I don't know.
Pretty much. So, yeah. So he took a long pause, and then he was like, "Yeah, we want to get into that. We want to have a diverse group of people that are involved in the organization,
Of course.
but we don't know how to go about doing that." So, I kind of you know took that as mental note. Okay, cool. So right after that, I had seen a friend of mine who is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but that's another story. So yeah, so she was like, yeah, you should come to the meetings, and she was involved with Startup San Diego already, and she was like, yeah, you should come to the meetings to decide, what you want to do, and go from there. So I decided, you know what, maybe I can help in that department, but the only way that I'm going to help with that is if I know what's going on throughout the ecosystem. It's something that I was foreign to. I didn't know anything about, nothing about startup culture, the language, see, I didn't know nothing. So I was like, well, let me just volunteer and see how I like it first before I, you know, do anything. And so for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years, I just went to events, networking, volunteered, um, and was just figuring out who was part of the ecosystem. So, um, which is a ode to everyone, or a tip for everyone, that when you're going into something new, like, you should definitely do your research and figure out um, who is who and what is what. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's very important. And so I did my work for a year and a half before I decided to do anything. And so after that, I think for after 2 years, Startup Week was coming around, and I said, you know what? I think there's a real need for um, diversity and inclusion in this space. Um, and at this time, I'm still learning, and I brought it up at a meeting because they were trying to go in a different direction for that year's Startup Week, which was last year. Not this one that just passed, but this is 2018
Okay.
Startup Week.
Yep.
So this was so let me kind of put some context behind it. So the meetings were happening late 2017. So this was like a October, November, December kind of time frame. And so and so I proposed it, and after a while, they thought it was a great idea, and they were like, you know what? Since you're so passionate about it and you want to see it through, then you kind of head it. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Um, Personally speaking, I don't think they expected the turnout of what happened eventually. I think they just kind of thought, well, what does this guy know? Like, he doesn't, know anybody or whatever. But this what prepared me for the year and a half, 2 years of me networking and just meeting people. You know what I mean? And it came in handy because I developed relationships with people. So now I can say, hey, I'm heading this Startup Week thing. I definitely would like you to come showcase your company and what you're doing and things of that nature. So that's essentially how I got involved. And then Startup Week was a success. And as far as like the D&I portion of it, and I got some great reviews from the people up top, like, hey, like, you definitely had a quality of speakers, and we were impressed, and blah blah blah. And it just kind of snowballed from there. So
Nice. You know, I didn't even know what D&I meant until earlier this year. I'd never heard that term before in my life.
oh really?
Yeah, never. And so, it's from going to events like the diversity track from Startup Week, and then, other events that I kind of understood, what these terms even mean. And, diversity and inclusion, I mean, what is that? And it seems like no matter where I go, the definition tends to be a little different. But it was really interesting, getting, learning more about it, through the track that you set up through at Startup Week last year.
Well, actually, that term is used in HR as well. So I have a background in HR and organizational development. So that's where I first learned the term from. And so, they use it in regular human resources lingo and, what I was about to say, like paperwork and things of that nature, because everything is abbreviated. So, and then that comes from the military. So being in the military, in the Navy, everything has an abbreviation on it. So you learn real quick
Okay.
that everything is, they don't have the long name for things. They always shorten names. So.
Right. So I also mentioned in the introduction that you're also, in addition to Startup San Diego, you're also involved with Startup Grind and We the Plug. So with those two organizations, what's your involvement with them, and what do you hope your involvement will produce from being a part of those organizations?
So funny story about this whole Startup Grind thing. So actually how I got into that, I was having a conversation with a friend on the phone, and he was just like, hey, what happened to Startup Grind? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's find out. And so contacted some folks in the startup space about Startup Grind. I actually found out who was the director at the time, and contacted her, had a conversation with her. At the time, she had just got married and recently just had a baby, and, was going through some transitions in life. And so she said that she couldn't bear the responsibility of being a director, that if she was going to be the director, she wants to do it a certain way. And so she wasn't able to do that, kind of juggling job and, career and home life. So she definitely was like, hey, if you want it, hey, you can have it. Only thing is you would have to go through the interviewing process to become the director and all that good stuff. And so, we did me and my friend, we did the interview process. We got introduced to the person that was in charge of the Americas for Startup Grind. And we went through the interviewing process. We went through 2 interviews, and then we both, got accepted. He was the director, I was the co-director, and that with Startup Grind in particular, like what I'm trying to do is trying to bring a different facet to Startup Grind. I think in the previous, I guess, regimes is what you would call it, the folks really didn't hone in on people that were doing great things but not as well known. And so that was my goal for this go around for Startup Grind, is to get people that are doing great things but no one really knows about. And so my thing is kind of having new gems, available, and like, oh, I didn't know this person existed. I didn't know this was here. I didn't know we had this in San Diego. And so that was kind of my way of doing Startup Grind. So, recently the director had stepped down, and so I became the director, and moving forward that in a different direction. So that's what Startup Grind. Did you want me to talk about We the Plug also?
Yeah, I asked about both.
Oh, excuse me.
You gotta listen, man.
No. I listen to it. Everything is a long-winded story. So
I mean, after you say that, it's like, you want me to talk about We the Plug? What am I gonna say? No.
No. I just didn't want to be, talking, to the side of my neck.
It's an interview after all.
That is true. So, but with We the Plug, that actually started as a local effort to build the ecosystem for Black and Latino founders. So I actually, had a meeting in late January, trying to figure out how are we going to build out this ecosystem. And to be completely honest, like, it was a bitch fest. Like, that's basically what it was. It was, us sitting down complaining about why the ecosystem is not the way it is, the issues with it. And then at the end of it, we were like, well, how are we going to solve this? Like, this is a huge problem. How are we going to solve this problem? And so even I, from that first meeting, took away like, damn, like, how am I really going to solve this? Like, I don't have the answers. So 2 weeks after that, I had went to the Bay Area for the Startup Grind Global Conference. And so just decided to have a meetup off the whim and just try to get that information from other founders. So it was actually customer discovery. So if anyone knows anything about the lean canvas model, the most important part of the lean canvas model, besides problems and solutions and customer acquisition, is customer discovery. That's the most important part, because you need to discover that you do have something. You can't, well, let me rephrase that. You don't know if you have something without customer discovery. That's important. So it was also a customer discovery experiment. So did that. I expected about 5 to 7 people to show up. That's not what happened. I did it and like 85 people showed up. So it was a very euphoric kind of environment where I had people from all the way out Oakland, like, just finding out about that meetup and driving all the way down to Redwood City where we had the meetup. So if anyone knows how the Bay Area is, like, Oakland to where we're at in Silicon Valley was a long way. It was like an hour and a half, and considering the Bay Area traffic, it was crazy. So, I was kind of overwhelmed and was like, wow, like, people are really excited about what we're talking about. So the discussions during that meeting was access to capital, the issues between the funders and founders. A lot of times you have founders who have products or services that benefit, our community, the Black and brown community. And, you have a lot of VCs or angels that don't understand the value in their products or services. So they just like, well, I don't see the value in it. It was one young lady who had a health tech startup, but it was more for hair. So it was like she had like a product for coarse hair, and then she kind of infused some tech in it. I don't remember the exact product, but it was her, and then there was another young lady who had an app where beauticians can, I guess it's like a appointment system for their services.
Okay.
So something along those lines. But anyway, they didn't see the value, and it's like, that's crazy to me, because if they looked up the information, they know that hair, especially for Black women, is a $1 billion business.
Billion.
Yeah, with the B, exactly. So it was a very interesting conversation, to say the least. We also talked about, the old generation and the new generation of Black and brown folks. And we end up actually talking about developing our own fund. And we also talked about how the founders, the only way that we're going to get the cycle for more folks is if, we become, the funders ourselves. So if we have a fund, now we have a stake in the game, and we can, put others on and fund other people who look like us, and just go from there. So it was a very productive conversation. I did not want to just have that conversation and just leave it alone. And so in the middle of the meeting, I went to the cashier, was like, do you have a blank piece of paper and a pen? and I got the blank piece of paper and a pen. I'm trying to look for the actual the paper where I had all the emails. It's here somewhere in this mess. But so I got the emails and created a Slack channel. And so it was a very euphoric event. That meetup happened like on a Tuesday because I was there the whole week. After that Tuesday, everything kind of changed. You saw all the Black people kind of like get together. They wanted to have lunch with each other. They wanted to know more about each other's companies. And there wasn't only founders there. So there was also venture capitalists and angel investors at that meeting as well. And so not to mention folks from all over the United States. I had folks in there from London. I had folks in there. I had a lot of folks from Africa in there. And so because of that, it went from a local effort to now a global effort. So it just happened just like that. And when I shared it on LinkedIn, I got some interesting reviews on about that. And people were very interested in knowing what I was trying to do. And so I just kind of made it official and just said, hey, we're going to call it We the Plug, and we're going to build out our programming as we go along. And so ever since I did that, I've gotten contact from people in Europe, more specifically London. They definitely want us to come out there and do something. Folks in Africa, which has been surprising to me. And, every day there's someone, coming forward and wanting to see what we're about. So we're progressing. So, and then just, we end up calling it We the Plug. And so that's what we're at. So.
I really like the idea of the founders eventually becoming the funders. I was recently just having a conversation with this lady who also has a startup that has to do with hair. And she was saying the exact same thing as you were saying, that you go to the more traditional VCs because they don't have the type of hair that Black women have, they can't really relate. And so they're not going to invest. But if you have a fund that's made up of Black women, they're going to know the struggles that Black women go through with their hair. And so it's going to be a whole lot less convincing or persuading them that that her startup would be worthwhile. So, I mean, if you're ever able to get that fund, started, I think there's going to be it's going to be a worthwhile fund. It's definitely going to be people that are going to be hitting you up.
Yeah. I definitely, if we do start that, we're going to have everything in-house. Eventually our long-term goals is to have incubator of sorts, so we can have people understanding the fundamental knowledge of how this works. And then after that, we can graduate to an accelerator where now that's when the fund comes into play. And now, we're giving away money, or we're not giving away money. I gotta stop saying that. Investing money in startups. And so that's the ultimate long-term goal. For right now, we want to draw on programming that includes incubators and also workforce development. So me and my COO, we actually talked about the workforce development portion, because we're in a unique position where you have a lot of Black and Latino founders that have to go back and forth between, damn, things are not working out right now, I may have to go get a job. So we want to have a workforce development department so folks can go in between without necessarily being judged. So do you follow what I'm saying?
I understand completely. I mean, from what I understand in the entrepreneurship space, their first round of funding comes from friends and family. And if you're from a family that doesn't have it like that to be able to give you money, that you're going to have to basically bootstrap and fund yourself. And when that money runs out, there's no, mom and dad to go to, or grandparents to go to, to ask for a loan to get money. I mean, chances are those people are struggling themselves to get through the week or the month or whatever. So you very well might have to get a job. But if that's the case, then if you have some kind of a programming for that, I think that would be really beneficial to people. And it would help them with, bridging that gap, I guess, so they don't give up on their dream of their, their entrepreneurial venture.
Well, this goes into another conversation, which is personal brand versus the brand of your company. And so I'm in the belief of you have to build your personal brand first and then build your company. So people have to know who you are as a person. So even though people may know me as, oh, that's the guy from We the Plug, the first thing they're going to say is Luis. They're not going to say We the Plug. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, and this plays a role into the long-term game, meaning like, okay, things may not be going as well. So I need to say, hey, let me build up my brand so, I can make sure that, everything is good on my end. Because if everything is good with me, then I can feed We the Plug. So I'm just learning about this, So, the struggle is real. And as you know, the struggle is too real. And that's another pain point that I want to solve. Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone is going to be in between, jobs or careers or whatever. And so that's the problem that we really need to solve. That, it's okay to fail or be on the low end or I don't even know what you call it, but everyone go through hard times. And so we want to be able to say, all right, right now things are not going as planned. So let's reevaluate what you're doing, but at the same time, you got to put money in your pocket because shit is adding up. You know what I'm saying? And so, and that goes for me and that goes for everybody else. Like I am a walking example. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So that's what we have to solve first. So that would be that would solve somewhat of the problem with the friends and family. So I don't think any organization is doing that specifically. Like say, hey, you know what? Like while you're trying to figure it out, yes, you may have your company up and running. You may have an LLC, but then, it's going to take you a while to get up off the ground. So let's make sure your personal brand is up to par first. So that way you can go get gigs. You can go do trainings. You can go do X, Y, and Z and things that are, minuscule, like 1 or 2 day things where we can put bread in your pocket. And now as you're feeding your company grows, so do you. So does that clear? What I was about to say? Does that make sense or?
That definitely makes sense.
Okay.
And if it didn't make sense, I wouldn't tell you it makes sense on camera.
Funny.
I'm trying to make Black people look good, man.
All right, good. Because some people be like, what is he talking about?
No, I fully understand what you're talking about, man. And I'm sure the people are watching that have experienced that situation themselves. They know exactly where you're coming from, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I first knew or heard of you or saw you when at Startup Week giving a presentation on pitching. And so I'm guessing that, public speaking is a big part of your brand, is a big part of who you are. Have you always been an effective public speaker?
No. Hell no.
Really?
That is a hell no. I avoided any type of interaction with people up until 2 years ago. Like if I didn't have to talk, it's very interesting. I get this like thing where people think I'm such a extroverted person, and I laugh at them. And it's just like people don't really know me. It's like, no, I'm very introverted. I really don't want to be bothered. Like, and but I love. So I have a saying. So I love individuals, but I hate people. So individuals,
Okay.
And I get the same reaction when I say that. So individuals are easier to talk to. You can level with them on a more human level. Sometimes people can be sheep, like they just follow what's going on and, oh, okay, I'm just gonna follow the wave, and not critically think,
Yeah.
you know. So, but yeah, I'm a super introvert, and so public speaking was something that I had to really just get out of my head. It's so funny. December of 2017, I said to myself, and I was at the time didn't have looking for a gig, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna get nowhere. I got to start getting out there and meeting people. Because it's kind of sad when you fill out a job application and like you really have to put like your friends and the two people that um, on your references, the reference section. And so I'm like, I don't know anybody. So I decided to go out there and just check it out. The first event that I went to was a public speaking event. Out of all things, it was how to become a TEDx speaker.
Okay.
Don't ask me how I decided on that.
Let me tell you something about becoming a TEDx speaker. I don't know what this person told you, but from what I understand, to become a TEDx speaker, you have to have an interesting idea. That's where it starts from. If you don't have an idea that hasn't been talked about before at a TEDx event, you're cooked. It doesn't even matter if you're a good public speaker or not. When it comes to TEDx, you have to have an interesting idea that hasn't been covered by some other TEDx speaker. Is that what the person told you?
No, well, no, it was just a regular, just how to become a TEDx speaker. Like that's what was on the Eventbrite headline on the title.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting. I said, let me check it out. I didn't go there. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't go there for that. That wasn't my end goal. Oh, I'm gonna become a TEDx speaker. That was not my goal. My goal was to meet people.
Okay.
I figured that if the important people that want to become a TEDx speaker, they would want to go to something like that. To be with other more important people that want to speak about whatever it is that they're passionate about.
Right.
So that's how I looked at it. Yeah. And so I did that. The event was kind of interesting. I'll keep it positive.
Okay.
But the only positive thing that came out of it is I met my business partner there. That's the only positive thing that came out of that. But other than that, I didn't go there to become a TEDx speaker. But the funny thing is about that specific meetup, they gave you, was it 3 minutes or 5 minutes? I want to say it was 5 minutes. So they gave you 5 minutes to speak about anything. And so, ironically, I got there pretty early. I was like probably the first person in, as a matter of fact. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to? We're picking 5 people to take 5 minutes." So the first 5 people that showed up, I didn't know this at the time, would get 5 minutes. And then everybody else would get like 2 minutes to say who they are and where they're from or whatever. So I said, I'll do the 5 minutes. Mind you, I had no speech prepared. I had nothing ready, nothing. I just came to meet people. I didn't come to actually speak, but off the whim, I said, whatever, what I got to lose. This is what I came here for, so whatever. So I end up speaking. I freestyled the whole time. I winged it completely. Like I literally did not know until I got up there what I was going to say. And I ended up talking about giving people opportunities that don't look like them. Something along those lines. And so I remember actually bringing a young black kid up, and I think he was still in high school. And I kind of used him as a prop and say, hey, like, you know, what if I, give him a chance or something like that if I made it? Or it was something along the sort. But because I freestyled the whole speech. But anyway, the person who was running it stopped me and was like, at the end of it, he was like, have you spoke before? And I was like, no, that was freestyle. And he was like, wow, like I really thought like you had that prepared, like you're a good speaker. And I kind of laughed and I was like, I thought I did horrible, but I guess he thought I did good. So, yeah, and it was just doing things like that repeatedly and going to different places that helped me become a better public speaker. What really helped me was I actually started my own workshops, which really helped me because I had no choice but to be up in the front. Right. Like, you know what I mean? And as you're up in front of people, then everything else just goes away, especially when you're talking about something you're real passionate about. Like everything just kind of goes out the window. So,
yeah, I'm a big fan of what you just said about talking about something you're passionate about. I remember back when I was in high school, we used to have to do debates in English class. So there'd be one side be pro the resolution, and the other side would be con. And I always found it was really difficult to be on the side that I didn't agree with. It was very difficult for me to talk convincingly about something that I didn't agree with. So I'm a big fan of people talking about things that they're passionate about. It's so important, and it comes across. Maybe that's why the organizer of the event said that he thought you were a speaker, because you spoke so. I know this word's used a lot, but you spoke authentically. So the people probably in the audience felt that you were passionate about what you were talking about. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I just went to my gut feeling and what my pain points were, and I just went with that pretty much. And yeah, people loved it. People were like, "Oh, you should speak more," blah blah. And I kind of was just like, whatever. Like, but I'm not. I don't. How do I say this? I'm not easily influenced by people, so I can just kind of whatever. But yeah, I took that and kind of ran with it, and ever since then, it's been a gradual thing with public speaking. So it's something that I had to kind of get used to, and so what I do now, because I'm always nervous if I'm going to go speak in front of people like that. I'm always nervous. So what I kind of do is like I may tell jokes, or I may, talk to people in the audience, or I may even let the audience kind of run with the conversation a little bit, just to kind of take the focus off me, so I can regain my posture, and then I can come in and regain the room. So it's important that, especially in public speaking, like when you're doing presentations, that you have involvement with the people that have come to see you. I think that's important. It's almost, I watch a lot of comedy, so I take that aspect of it where like a comedian engages with the audience to make them feel a part of it. So it's that same model, because I feel like a lot of public speakers, they don't involve their audience. So if the audience feels part of the solution, then at the end of it, they may say, hey, you know what? Like, I really enjoyed that, like being part of the conversation. So I feel in that way, I bring something different.
You're absolutely right. When you say if you involve the audience in the actual presentation, frankly, they'll be more likely to pay attention, because they're a part of it. So yeah, I'm a big believer in that too. I actually mentioned that in my course, Teach the Geek to Speak. It seems like we agree on quite a number of things when it comes to public speaking.
Yeah, and I didn't read a book. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't read a book. I didn't take a YouTube course. This is just something that I observed throughout my 1.5, 2 years of going to events, watching people speak, watching people, how they engage the audience. And what really, there was one speaking gig that really like took me over the edge. So it was one, I'm not going to say the actual conference, but it was one where like they had a guy from university speak about something. I don't even remember.
You ain't gotta say nothing else. All you had to say was came from a university. Let me tell you something about the university. So, I used to go to, when I used to work as an engineer, I used to go to a whole bunch of conferences, and a lot of them were more academic based. So there was a whole lot of people just like that, people from the universities, professors, grad students, and postdocs. And man, if you were having trouble sleeping, you need to go to one of them damn conferences. Because they would this is what they would do. So they'd get up and they would read their slides verbatim. Like, no, they wouldn't miss a word. So you know they're literate. You know they could read because they're reading the slides. And it's not engaging. They're looking at their screen, or they're looking at the PowerPoint slides, or they're looking at their computer screen. So you don't even know what their face looks like. And so why are you going to pay attention? You're going to fall asleep, like I did on numerous occasions.
But check this out, though. Like, you can read the slides verbatim, right? But you can, like, I could do a session where I can literally read the slides verbatim, but still be charismatic to your audience. Like, I mean, they was just standing there and just like, yeah, so the thing is going to the left. And it's like, bro, like, you got to be engaging. And so that really told me, you know what? If I was to do public speaking, that's not the way I'm going to do it. Like, you got to have some kind of presence when you're up there in front of people, or else people are just gonna just all day.
Yep, that was me. Not to the side though. My head would go back. It was like, luckily I didn't snore.
I actually went to a session, not this past year, but last year at Startup Week, where the woman was she came from academia, and with people that are in academia, the problem with them is that they use a lot of metrics. So in using a lot of metrics, like, they end up boring the hell out of people because it's just, so we did a study and it said that 65% of people are just not inclined in the tech industry, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you can come up with a more creative way to bring those metrics to your audience. But they've been entrenched in academia for 30, 40, 50 years, that that's what they know. So
well, let me tell you again about academia. So a lot of these people, professors, postdocs, grad students, they're not measured based on their prowess in public speaking. They're measured based on the number of publications they've put out and the prestige of the publication that they put out. So
or the research.
Right. So that's the metric that they're measured by. So public speaking is basically an afterthought. It's just something you have to do to get to that end goal.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen very painful presentations, and I'm just like, wow, they expect people, especially when you have folks from academia, like, try to move over to the startup space, because culturally it's different. Right. You go from an environment where you're giving a presentation suit and tie to kids who have flip-flops and colorful shorts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're speaking to that type of audience, then that means the way your delivery needs to change in order to engage people. So
number one rule of public speaking is to know your audience, man. You can't present the same way to every audience that you're in front of, for sure.
Yeah, I take my beliefs about being proud of being Black. There are certain audiences where I can I can be extreme, and then certain audiences where I got to be like, all right, I got to pull it back a little bit.
Pull it back, bro.
You know? So that's why, and that's why I named it "We the Plug" and the symbolism and everything, because yeah, obviously we're not gonna say no to everybody. Like, so everyone is included in what we're trying to do.
However,
but when you look at, if you go to the meetings and you see what we're trying to do, it's pretty clear, our target audience. So we don't have to, go into the whole hotep mode and just, be crazy about it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So that's, yeah.
This has been a fruitful and very interesting conversation. Thanks again, Luis, for taking time today on July 4th. Is there anything else that you'd like the audience to know about what you're working on?
Yeah. So I'm working on a lot of things. That's a fully loaded question. Just continuing to connecting with people, and we're going to have a very interesting event coming in August. I can't really talk about it, but we're going to have...
You're just going to mention that you have something that you're working on, but you're not going to tell us anything about it. Thank you.
No, just, I
got some stuff, but I ain't going to tell you nothing.
No, it's not official. So,
yeah, all right.
Once everything is official, then I can bring it out. The only thing I could say is that it's going to involve a startup fair, and it's going to involve more of a back to school kind of feeling, but it's going to be catered towards the community. And so we're working on getting some big folks to sponsor what we're doing, and collaborating with other organizations, and just bringing the startup community to the doorstep of the Black and Brown community. So, yeah. So like I said, we're in the business of doing things differently, not normal in the startup space. So, some startup organizations, they do things differently. I know a specific organization, and they're mostly, they're champion for diversity and inclusion in companies, but all their events are in suit and ties, and that's not realistic of the culture that we are in the startup space. So, that's only reserved for like awards or special occasion. But I kind of want to bring that looseness to this community. So, and obviously have information and workshops on, if you want to be part of it, either through the skills that you already have or the skills that you want to obtain. So folks don't realize that the skills that they already have can be useful, in this space. Take someone that I know, let's take HR, right? Someone in HR may say, well, how can I fit in this ecosystem? Well, if we develop a company, we got to follow the same rules as everyone else. Right. You know what I mean? So there is a place for you. You just have to figure out, your skills, where it fits in. And if not, you can go and develop new skills so you can be part of the ecosystem. Because truth be told, man, having skills wins. It's skills over natural talent, always. So,
no doubt. So how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can get in touch with me. They can look me up on LinkedIn, Luis Martinez, MSOL. They can look me up on Instagram, which is Lucito, _entrepreneur, and Lucito Brooklyn on Twitter. So they can hit me up and go from there. So
wonderful. Thanks again for being on the channel, Luis. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you as well. Appreciate you having me on your podcast, and best of luck to you and everything that you're doing.
Thanks again. Again, everyone, my name is Neil Thompson. This is Teach the Geek. I am the founder of Teach the Geek. It's a platform for STEM professionals. The first offering is a public speaking course called Teach the Geek to Speak. To learn more about it, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Thanks again. Have a great day. Happy 4th.